From Los Angeles, the home of film and television, this is Film Music Live, a webcast featuring outstanding composers, orchestrators, filmmakers, and more from the world of music for film, television, and video games, talking about their work and answering your questions. Film Music Live is sponsored by the Film Music Network and Film Music Institute. And now the host of Film Music Live, Daniel Schweiger.
Hey everyone, I'm Daniel Schweiger, and welcome to Film Music Live, the show where you get to ask the questions to today's top composers. I'm happy to have you here. If there's one cool thing to come out of the retro craze, and more particularly the fourth season of the San Fernando Valley's most notorious dojo, then it's Cobra Kai. Taking a franchise begun in 1984 that pitted a hot-headed kid and his martial arts mentor against bullying black belts, The Karate Kid had its moment of truth across 4 movies, all scored by Bill Conti, the Zen master of the underdog hero, who created an inspirationally iconic tapestry of heroic symphonic moves and Asian instruments. Skip ahead to 2018 on YouTube Red, and the rivalry between Daniel LaRusso and Johnny Lawrence was brought back to the mat with the series Cobra Kai, which is now migrated to Netflix. Though affectionately fun, it was a series that was no joke in showing how a feud that never grew up becomes a battle for the high school kids Daniel and Johnny train for better and worse. Incorporating characters from the Karate Kid metaverse over the course of 4 seasons and counting, one big source of Cobra Kai's flashback power is the music from the tag team of Zach Robinson and Leo Birenberg. It's scoring that incorporates all that was symphonically and rockingly great about the 80s, from score to soundtrack album, doing spot-on tributes to the Bill Conti style while bringing in thrashing guitar and grooving electronics to the floor. Robinson and Birenberg's sound has evolved with the show's wild emotions of reconciliations and rivalries, old and young. Now, Season 4 features Robinson and Birenberg's most badass, thunderously great scoring yet, as the returning big bad of Karate Kid 3's Terry Silver teams with John Kreese to put Daniel, Johnny, and their students to the ultimate test. Not only capturing the rush of the fight and updating a decade's iconic sound, Robinson and Birenberg's approach encompasses the show's mix of seriousness and sedition with perfect crane kick balance while truly unleashing their orchestral kata like never before. And now let's welcome 2 composers who now get to the 4th level of Cobra Kai Black Belt, Zach Robinson and Leo Birenberg.
Riveting.
Yo.
Well, it is great having you here. All I can tell you, this new season truly kicks ass. How do we get to the point of where this giant orchestral score really takes over like it never has before during the course of the show?
You know, every season just gets bigger and bigger as I think not only like the scale of the action, but the scale of the backstories of every character. And we've been building that so much since season 1 that by the time we get to our second tournament now that we've seen in the show, just the scope has gotten so big that the score follows along.
What do you think, Zach?
I agree. Sorry, there was a garbage truck going.
I was like, what's going on?
I didn't realize it was that sensitive. Yeah, I think the scary thing that Leo and I talk about often is just like, how are we going to top the last season and musically? And the nice thing is that we're always given just an amazing opportunity to top it in the first place. Like every season, just the finales are bigger and better. The story arcs are bigger and better. They keep finding ways to top the show, from the last season, and we just try to keep up. And so far, it's been working out. But it is always a very scary task, kind of, especially when we first spot those finales too. They're always scary.
And what's really cool, this really kind of this season has a particular theme. And you hear it like on the CD. It's called It's Karate Time. And it's
Oh,
almost
yeah.
like Transformers meets Rocky Four. And you kind of have paid tributes to past like 80s greats like Giorgio Moroder and other guys. But there's a real awesome Vince DiCola salute with that again kind of powers right through the season, going back to this particular theme.
We actually met with Vince DiCola after the season. It was after we had finished working on it, but
Yeah.
it was so awesome. We went to Cantor's and just like gushed about his work. And yes, there was absolutely a DiCola like vibe and salute to him, and It's Karate Time. And Leo can
He's,
talk a
I
little bit
mean,
about that.
he's amazing. He's just a huge influence, and Rocky 4 is my favorite Rocky movie. I'll go to the grave saying that that's the best Rocky. And I think that the sequence that track originated for, which is the opening of episode 9 in the season, it was one of the first things that the creators, John, Josh, and Hayden, had described to us. They were like, heads up, there's going to be this montage. It's going to be like all the dojos preparing for the tournament and kind of like their different styles and whatnot. So just keep that in mind. And then we wrote the theme for it so that we could kind of plant it earlier on in the season and build up to that moment. But it was actually one of the final tracks we finished for the season. So in a lot of ways, like the journey of that new theme that we call the tournament theme, it is kind of like was our journey for the whole season. It bookended the entire creative process.
Now we've got some questions on deck. Thanks to La La Land Records, which put out a truly bodacious season for double CD soundtrack. We've got season 3 and 4 to give away to our first 5 questioners who are doing this live, and we have Louis Versinelli. And thinks that you did a great job in season 4. And his question is, who was your favorite character to write music for? And is it easier to write for the underdog, the bad guys, as it turns in season 4 out to be the character Victor?
The Victor. Oh, I see. As it turns to season 4, the Victor. I think personally for me, scoring Terry Silver was the best part of season 4, because he's just such a big bad. And he has such a musical identity too to him that Conti had established in Karate Kid 3. And like we've been doing for all of Cobra Kai, it was kind of our turn to evolve that sound and fit it into the show. And like every scene that we did with Thomas Ian Griffith, who plays Terry Silver, was just easy. Like he was so good on camera. The music came so naturally. It was so much fun doing these like darker, still very 80s score like sounds and elements, and it was so much fun to score Terry. I don't know about Leo.
Yeah, the thing about Cobra Kai is like there are no good guys and bad guys, even in the Terry Silver big bad world. And so like we like not weirdly, like we get really intense and precious about like all of our characters and like the journeys they're on. Like this, as one example, like this season, you with Robbie training with Cobra Kai, like we really like twisted and manipulated a lot of the like Miyagi-Do training themes that were like set up in season 2 when like Robbie was Miyagi-Do, and like and like turned them into like a new thing. So we get like really into that. This season, as like an example of that, my favorite character to score was Sam LaRusso, because I think she just had this like great arc in kind of learning more about her fighting style and where like she wasn't jiving with Daniel and she needed to turn to Johnny, and like she and Johnny had such like a great relationship on camera, and her just the build. One thing I liked about the season a lot was that the like Tori Sam final match was really the final match for the whole shebang. And so we just got to have kind of like our final say for the tournament with Sam, and her themes had developed so much in that time, and it was just a blast.
I mean, I think there are 2 great soap operas on television. One is Yellowstone, and the other is Cobra Kai.
Yes.
And in this, it's like the music more than ever, because it's like one of my favorite lines that Terry gives is like, I terrorized a bunch of little kids.
Yeah.
And the stakes are just outrageous, especially the music is really, and I mean this is a compliment, really over the top in this
No,
season.
we take it
Where
as a compliment.
Yeah.
Like,
it's just, what's that like? Just again, because like a certain point, it could become like the Naked Gun, where it's just
Right.
so completely over the top, but yet, the dramatic stakes are real for these characters. How did you really want to play that up, but not tip it into comedy?
Well, you nailed it there in saying that like the stakes are real for the characters. So there's a fine line between, pastiche and parody and just earnestly scoring it with its over the top stakes. And that is what we aspire to, and I think we do, and that's like why it works so well, like as ridiculous as it is. People just get really sucked into the drama. Like you said, it's a karate soap opera. It's the seminal San Fernando Valley soap opera, and I think we just treat it so earnestly that the, I don't know, gigantism of it plays naturally.
Yeah, said it really well.
Now here's a question from the Bond music. You use some of Conti's themes, so do you have a favorite theme from Maestro Conti, and maybe you have favorite themes from the original films?
Maestro Conti. Yeah, we use there's kind of one motif of Conti's that we use a lot, which is I don't even know, it's like what you would call it. It's kind of Miyagi's melody. Bum 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 bum. We've kind of used that in past seasons. That's the one that we have found that works really well, kind of like just with our sound as well. And it's been nice to call back, especially in the earlier seasons. And now I find that we're like, sorry, there's another garbage truck. Now we find that in our newer season, in season 4, we've kind of actually started to move away from some of the Conti stuff, because we're really like in our kind of own world. We've had 40 episodes of this show, and we have a lot of our own themes already. And occasionally when they want to channel Conti, they just use Conti. So a lot of the times Conti's just in the script. And that was like particularly the, Terry Silver moments in this episode when he puts his hair in the ponytail, like, and also at the very end, that's Conti. So that's kind of where Conti has started to lie within Cobra Kai. We've started to move a little bit away from using it in our own music, but he's definitely used at really like appropriate and effective times.
I mean, Leo, what's your favorite Conti scene from any of the past films?
Well, like Zach said, we found that one motif, which is usually on like pizzicato strings mixed with like a tremolo string and harp at the same time, which is like a really nice sound. And we just found that that's kind of the most like latch-onable like sell from those films. Like there's some really great cues in the originals. I mean, I've always been a huge fan of the opening of the first movie, where it's just like this insane like Western score as they're driving across the country. But some of the famous ones, Daniel Sees the Bird, which is like an insane fugue, and the Daniel's Moment of Truth. Like I find that a lot of the effectiveness of the original score is in kind of the palette of it, and that I think is what people kind of remember. They remember the like mysticism of the pan flutes mixed with that pizzicato harp thing. And so in a lot of ways, our job is sometimes to be like evocative of that without doing the exact thing, because people might not recognize it. Early in season 1, we used more of the exact pan flute licks. There's like a boo 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 that comes and goes a few times within the very like improvisatory feel of a lot of that. But like now that our characters have all been introduced and reinforced, and the audience doesn't need as much like don't need as many sonic markers to like identify back to the original movies, because you got those in the first couple seasons. Like we just like we don't need to do it as much anymore. It's like we've established that now, and so we're like kind of have gone off on our own.
I mean, one thing I loved about a lot of Conti's scores is how he would use classical music and almost kind of do class. And there's one particular really cool cue here called "Like Old Times," that really draws on that particular Conti classical action style.
Well, he did this awesome thing in Karate Kid 3 for Terry Silver, which is this very Vivaldi-esque, like lots of interlocking counterpoint. And we wanted to like this Like Old Times cue is in the first episode. It's when Terry and Kreese are reminiscing on the balcony, and right after his whole like I was terrorizing kids line, or right before it or after it, and it's like this flashback of Karate Kid 3 Terry Silver, and so we wanted to pay homage to that sound, that classical sound, and so we did a very heady thing where we took one of our themes, this Awake the Snake theme, and basically turned it into a fugue. It doesn't sound anything like Awake the Snake, and we had written a new theme for Terry that then you hear kind of halfway through introduced as like the second subject. It was just like a weird few hours of going back to counterpoint class in college.
You know, for me, it's like I think one of the really cool surprises was when Carrie Underwood shows up to sing "The Moment of Truth." Yeah. I mean, were you involved working with her on that?
Yes, we were. We recorded her.
We were brought on
in the studio in the height of COVID.
Really early. Yeah, it was pre-vaccine, actually. That's how far back it was. But we were told that there was going to be a big Moment of Truth performance, but they had not gotten the performer yet. And then when they landed Carrie Underwood, basically, it was also at this time, like, we were laughing because, like, it was also at this kind of time with COVID where like, I don't know, it almost seemed like everyone was kind of on their own. Like, it just was like, just do your thing and like be safe about it. We were in the studio with her and it was like just us. The showrunners couldn't come. They weren't allowed to come really. And it was us and our recording engineer and Carrie and her manager. And we had done this arrangement for Moment of Truth, and we had talked to her on the phone, and she was amazing. And we worked out kind of key stuff with her and the modulation at the end and all that. And then we go in there and she crushes it on the first take because she's an American Idol. We did a lot of other takes.
She's unbelievable to work with.
She's an amazing singer. And was so cool and collected and just like truly nailed it. And I think everyone was feeling really, really happy after we recorded.
Yeah, were you actually there for the scene, or were you on?
No,
we were not on set for the scene. Sadly, we have never made it to set.
That was truly awesome. I just love that. So here's a question from Peter Hackman.
Peter.
When will you be doing another concert of some of your Cobra Kai music along with some of the songs from the series? And Vince DiCola thinks you rock.
Yeah, we're trying to get this concert with Vince happening.
Yeah, we want
to do a concert with Vince, but like once concerts exist again, I guess. Like sometimes they exist, sometimes they don't.
We have many. We talk about playing live shows all the time, so we kind of just need like the world to open up a little more so that we can get some on the books. I think what's crazy about it is that when we last played in 2019, like we were amazed at the like reception and like people were there to rock. And that was before the show even moved to Netflix. And so like the fan base has increased like 100 times since then. And so like we think we could, and also we have so much more music now that we like after the experience of doing a concert, we are always thinking while we're writing, like, can we do this live? Like, how can we do this live? And so there's like a certain performability, I think, in a lot of the recent score, and we are excited to explore that.
Well, again, there's always outdoor concerts, so
yes,
one way to make it happen.
It's true.
Now
we need a stadium
with live karate going on.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it's not always about Cobra Kai with you dudes, and that brings us to a question from Bara Madahari. What's the process of scoring Camp Cretaceous, and did you record a live orchestra for it? And can we expect a score release?
You didn't read the last sentence. It's the best part of the sentence.
There's nothing to be
the best
sorry about.
First of all, I never apologize for a question about an animated show. Camp Cretaceous is as all ages a show as you can get. I mean, people are getting eaten by dinosaurs. It is tense. I don't know about score release. That is above my pay grade and out of my hands. I would love to do one. I did not record any orchestra on it. So everything you hear is my mock-up, which I'm very proud of because I think it sounds very good. And that show is a blast. It is not dissimilar from, Headspace, from approaching, especially kind of like Zach and I were saying, the early scenes of the early seasons of Cobra Kai, where we were a little more in the original franchise's shadow in terms of how to bring the sound into a new platform. Like, they're obviously Jurassic Park is all of our favorite film score. One of, and there's some big shoes to fill there, and kind of the trick to it is taking that sound of the original score and figuring out how to bring it into a new story with new characters and new places, and without necessarily changing the heart of it, but adding a lot of new material. And so that's the challenge there. It's a real blast. I feel really privileged to be able to work on that show.
I think one of the really cool things about the series is how many composers you reference, and it seems like every season there's someone we haven't heard before. So in this one, I mean, stop me if I'm wrong, there's a cue called Ghost Boy, which sounds like Harold Faltermeyer's Fletch. There's Guest at Miyagi-Do, which I detected some John Carpenter of all people in it. I mean, who were the targets this time?
That was a good, nice year. I mean, you do this for a living. You listen to film scores. So but no, definitely Fletch. I mean, how can you not? We do a show about the 80s. We're going to be fans of Harold Faltermeyer. He's a hero. Yes, we also, it's funny you mentioned that cue because Ghost Boy is kind of like a comedy cue on the show. There's a lot of comedy cues on top of our big kind of orchestra stuff. And this year, Leo and I were okay, we're going to see just how 80s we can get with these small
with
cues,
the comedy stuff.
And the showrunners never said no. So we just kept doing that. And the more it sounded like Fletch, the more everyone was down with it. It works with the show. It works with the style. And obviously John Carpenter, also a big influence. We have another track that's on our La La Land exclusive CD called Spooky Library, which is straight up something out of the Thing or something, Morricone score, but same director. And all that stuff is in our cultural canon. We're always very aware of the references that we're making, and we also did a lot of kind of Michael Kamen kind of style references in our season 4 thing, I'm thinking of some of the Terry stuff.
Yeah, I would say we really see the score as kind of a love letter to all the facets of the jewel that is 80s film. And so there's some times where it sounds John Carpenter. There's sometimes where it sounds like an Amblin movie. It's such just a rich cinematic tradition, and the show kind of hits on all of it, even though it's centered in the Karate Kid franchise. And so there's a lot to be influenced by there. Wait, I have a question for Zach, actually.
Okay.
Well, Zach, I just want, because you can describe it so much better than me, and we're talking about Ghost Boy, can you talk about the track called Basketball on the album? Because that is where the Ghost Boy material started with, and it was kind of just an insane writing process, and it involves a lot of new characters.
Yeah, so Leo's referencing this was kind of the music that we scored the new character Kenny. He's the young like 8th grader who starts to learn karate like everyone else on the show. And when we're introduced to him when he's playing basketball, and again we just kind of like some of the hardest scenes on the show are the kind of like mildest, like just people playing basketball, kids playing basketball. And we landed on this kind of tone of like, yeah, a la like electro funk, kind of like Scritti Politti, late 80s production, like Trevor Rabin, weird like electro funk score. And it ended up staying. And it also was nice because like I've just in my previous life made kind of like 80s style music, and it was nice to kind of come back to that. And we're just psyched that it gets approved. Like we send this stuff over and we're like, oh, this will be the one where like John, Josh, and Hayden say they don't like it. And they're like, yep, approved, great. And then it gets on the album and everyone can hear it.
Now, again, throw some questions. We got some Karate Kid albums Cobra Kai albums to give away. That was a Freudian slip. Now, you might say who killed Kenny, but my question is who turned Kenny into a fairly unlikable bully. And that's one thing I really particularly liked about this season. I think like so many of us had the shit bullied out of us in high school. And this season more than ever really gets to, stuff that goes way beyond the show, especially with that character who's really terrorized into becoming, and the same thing essentially happens to Hawk as well earlier. I mean, do you guys have like really bad memories of being bullied when you were kids? And if so, how do you put that into the music?
That's a good question. I was not bullied so much, but I was also very short. And still am. So I actually definitely was bullied, and I feel like I've like locked it all out of my brain. But one thing that I really identify with in like the high school plot lines of the story is just like there's all these various like cliques that we are introduced to in the West Valley High. And like I, despite being like a band geek musical theater kid in high school, was like one of those social chameleons who could like run with a lot of different cliques. So I am like always like connecting to various things with various high school level characters. But what I would say is like bullying is like it's like the center of the entire Karate Kid story. And so the story will never, I think, stray too far from that. And I think it is something that everybody connects with. And so there's pretty much any character we get introduced to in the show or just like delve into their story, like there's going to be a bullying element to it.
I mean, what about you, Zach? Did you get triggered at all by the season?
The only thing I get triggered from is that I grew up in the Valley, so they'll make Valley references, and I'm like, that's not. Come on, like really, like. But now it's I don't know. It's I think overall with the show, I in all seriousness, it actually is quite nostalgic for me. Growing up in the Valley, playing kind of like rock music on the Sunset Strip when I was younger. Like I started playing out in bands. Like that type of music has kind of like made its way into the score. So I guess that's my relationship with it. I was fortunate enough to I went to a very progressive high school where there wasn't a lot of bullying. I'll put it that way. But yeah, I have a connection to the show that I think is really genuine, and I just like that it's kind of all takes place where I grew up.
Now, I mean, this whole season builds up to the last two episodes, especially with the score, and I was just really knocked out because essentially the last two episodes, the All Valley Championship, are just wall-to-wall underscoring. What was the challenge of these last two episodes?
Everything.
Yeah, everything. Especially how quickly we wrote them, which you don't even want to know. It was a sleepless period. The big challenge with something like that is structuring it so that
Yes.
every fight has the stakes that it requires, but also the meta, like the macro story of the whole tournament has the build and stakes that are required. And so, and in this case, you're talking about 2 episodes with like a cliffhanger of Miguel getting injured in the middle of it. And so like you have to, man, there was just so many builds to hit. And it's also the thing about the tournaments that are so exciting. And this is, in season 1, this was a really big moment for us in terms of like developing the sound of the show, is like you get all the characters in the same place. And so you can, everyone is like looking at everyone and perceiving everyone, and you can just develop all the themes and get them going in new heightened ways. But I guess especially really in every fight in those 2 episodes, but especially in the last one, we just wanted to give everything its own personality so that individually each fight had an identity. And then, like I said before, there was like a natural dramatic build among all of them to get you to the end of the season.
I agree. Pacing is I think the hardest part, especially over 2 episodes. And that was something it's hard to, when you're working on these individual pieces and then connecting it. It was really nice. I think we have a good enough feel for the show where we actually like kind of were like jigsawing it a bit, and then we put it together and it worked. But yeah, there's like the macro pacing across the 2 episodes, and then there's the micro pacing within each fight. For example, Rock and Hobby. Hawk and Robbie and Tori and Sam each have 6-minute fights, right? 6 to 7 minute fights. Like, how do you pace those mini battles as well? Like, you can't.
Right. And also, like, karate is a point by point, like, thing. It's not like 2 characters just struggling for the death. There's like often a breather in between points, and sometimes they go and talk to their senseis, and like it is like Zach said, we have like a feel for how to do it now, but it's like those are the challenges.
I mean, I think of all of the seasons, this is acting, especially given that I imagine this whole thing was shot and scored during COVID. I mean, it sounds amazing. It really it's the best sounding season you've done yet. How did you get this, especially with how orchestral this is? How was that recorded? What were the challenges?
We did it all remotely. We recorded all the orchestra in Budapest.
They were great.
We have a great contractor there and a great conductor there, and they really knocked it out of the park. I think we know. Look, like if you want a good orchestral performance, you have to write in a way that it's going to sound good. And I think, like, not to toot our own horn, but I think we did that to allow them to flex their muscles and like really take advantage of their talent. We also, like, we usually record the score in, like, we'll do 2 or 3 episodes at a time and devote extra sessions to the finale. And so we kind of had the whole season of like pretty big music to like workshop what recording process was going to work best for us, and like when we should, record the strings and brass separately for mixing purposes, and when we might want an extra pass of something in the strings to get like, a richer sound or like a more mechanical sound. And so by the time we got to the tournament, we were we were firing on all cylinders as in our recording process, like separate from the writing. And I think it comes through sonically. We should also give a shout out to our engineer, Phil, who Phil McGowan, who like the mixes sound amazing.
And our orchestrator.
Vincent Abido, who takes he does a lot of work really quickly.
Writes a lot of notes.
A lot of notes on the page.
Now we've got a question from Dale. Well, let's just say if Daniel-san had his Miyagi, you had Christoph Beck. What hit us up to any tips or tricks you gleaned from your time spent in his dojo?
It's actually crazy. I was thinking about it because we haven't been there for as long as we were there. Does that make sense? Like, I was there for 3 years, and it's been it's been a long time since then. But man, we learned. I mean, look, working for a composer as big as Chris and like working on just the biggest possible projects that you can do. There's nothing in school that will ever like prepare you for that. And you'll never learn anything in school the way that you'll learn kind of just being in the room there, literally being in the room. And just being around. I think Chris was really great about showing us the ropes with everything that wasn't music related on top of music related stuff, like interfacing with clients and producing orchestra sessions and working with contractors and dealing with like revisions, staying cool and collected and kind of just never freaking out about stuff. Like I think that was kind of like one of the biggest lessons that I learned. I mean, on top of all the musical stuff which we could go into, but I think really like kind of learning how to watch, you know, maybe a 70-minute 2-episode finale and kind of be able to parse it out and figure out how to approach it.
What about you, Leo? Was there any
Zach-
particular score?
Well, Zach really nailed that, but I think what like the thing about Chris is he is very fortunate in that like he hasn't really been put in a box genre-wise, and so every movie we did over there was like a totally different sound and size and scope, and so we were just exposed to so many different you know, how to solve so many musical problems, dramatic problems, because film scoring in a lot of ways is like you're problem solving, and the scores never sound the same, but the techniques you use and how to approach the drama can be learned, I think. And so we had so much experience in so many different genres, and it makes it, like Zach said, so much easier to go into any show, but like especially on Cobra Kai, where like the scope is so big, and you know, we're not really fazed by the nuts and bolts of how to get it done. Like that will take care of itself because of all those skills we developed.
Now, you know, I have to say that this season has everything in it, except there is one big elephant missing from the room, and she's not an elephant. Hilary Swank. How are we going to get Hilary Swank?
I mean, we don't know. By the way, we truly don't know anything. We watch when we watch these episodes for the first time, we don't read the scripts. Like we watch them when we're spotting, and we just came from a spotting in season 5, and they're talking about future episodes, and I took my headphones off. Like that's how crazy we get. Yeah. So we don't know anything, but I think they've got, you know, another season to deal with. Like they can't give it all in season 4.
Yeah, they are aware of all the characters.
Yeah, that's what they like to say.
Yeah, and we just find out episode by episode, which is very fun for us. I think it really informs kind of how we approach the score from like an audience perspective, that we try not to spoil it for ourselves until we sit down to watch it with them.
So what will you do for the next Karate Woman?
I don't know.
We'll have to figure it out.
We'll have to
if she comes,
inspiration from somewhere if she comes.
So obviously, are they still shooting the new season, or have they wrapped it? I hope.
I think they're wrapped.
I think they're wrapped too,
unless they have some like pickups to do. They're wrapped with all the principal stuff.
Yeah. They jumped right back in. We're still recovering from
the season 4 finale.
So where does this go? I mean, who gets referenced next, or where do you want to see the story go if you could control the fan universe?
I don't know. I don't like making guesses because like I feel like the plot twists are just always feel so fresh in this, and like the characters, like no one's ever on the same side for long, and so I just like I'm just along for the ride. Like I love it.
Yeah, and I think there's a couple things. Is like we did not go as hard as we could with the Terry stuff. I think we're going to go extra hard this year because we didn't like he is the main villain of season 5, assumingly, based on the finale. And I think another thing that we are looking forward to the opportunity if it comes up, but like we know that Chosen is going to be in season 5 because of the finale of season 4, and returning to the Okinawa palette, which we loved dearly, the stuff from season 3. I wistfully think of, like, with nostalgia, think about season 3 sometimes with that score. So I'm looking forward to kind of going back there if we're allowed to. And definitely, I think Terry stuff, we're going to go really hard.
So I guess, I think, I just like my favorite moment. One of my favorite moments in any movie is seeing Darth Vader turn into a good guy. If you have any terrible character, and it happens a little bit in the season, how do you musically want to have someone see the good side of the Force, if that's going to happen?
You know
what
the moment.
is that?
There's the big moment in episode 10.
Which
Kreese's moment.
Oh yeah. This is a big one. Is when in the middle of the Sam Tori fight, when like Tori is over on the sideline looking for some coaching from her senseis, and Kreese and Terry. It's like the first, you've seen some riffs in them building up in the season, and obviously there's a big one at the end. But this is kind of a true philosophical riff that happens where Kreese kind of, it has this moment of like seeing himself as like the sensei at the original tournament, and also like his Vietnam experience, and his theme, which is this like Awake the Snake theme, like gets extremely heroic as he tells Tori to approach the fight how she wants, and not listen to Terry. And it's a big moment for Kreese, because like I would say one of his defining character attributes is he will never admit when he's wrong, like more than even Daniel and Johnny. And so like that was a huge moment. And I'm excited to see where that goes.
And that was also big for the showrunners. We had to do a couple back and forth with that too, because they really wanted to like nail that you are feeling kind of a difference to Kreese there.
Well, to wrap up, I think you guys won the season, but did Terry actually win? And like, we're gonna have to wait a whole year. I don't know how we're gonna do it to find out what happened. Zach and Leo, I just want to thank you so much for joining us at Film Music Live. I want you all to watch the seasons of Cobra Kai on Netflix, with its scores available on La La Land Records and Sony Music. Thanks to Mark Northam, our producer Dale Turner, Mark Banning, and the dojo of Impact 24 PR and La La Land Records. We'll see you all on the next Film Music Live. Go Team Miyagi.
Thanks for having us, Dan.
Thanks for having us. We love it.